Okay. Rabbi say, when Yosef was going down to Mitzrayim in the caravan, it says, "V'nei orchos Yishmaelim bo g'maleim noisim tzori v'loy tolchem lahoyim Mitzrayim." And there's a famous Yalkut that Yosef was surrounded by spices, and the Yalkut says, look how beautiful it is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu took care of Yosef, that normally these caravans didn't carry spices, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu was chas on Yosef that he should have nice smells, because normally they carried tans, they carried the hides, and hides really smelled very, very badly. Rav Chaskel Levenstein asks Akasha, he goes, who cares? Yosef is 17 years old. Within a very short amount of time, his life is turned upside down. He's traumatized beyond words. Within Kehereth Ayin, his brothers turned on him. He was just in a pit full of snakes and scorpions. He's shaken beyond words. He's now being sold to slavery. In his mind, he believes he's never going to see his family again. And this is what HaKadosh Baruch Hu does. He's giving him besamim, like, who cares? That's what Rav Chaskel Levenstein is saying, right? Rav Chaskel Levenstein says, what HaKadosh Baruch Hu is saying is, to all of us, the message is, in our darkest times, when it seems like HaKadosh Baruch Hu has abandoned us, and we say, where are you? These little things is Hashem is saying, I am here. I am with you. It's a kiss from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I know you're going through a hard time, and I am here. I heard a vart just 2 hours ago from Rav Yaakov Sinclair. He says, Chanuka celebrates two Nisan, the oil and the military victory. And really, the Chanuka centers around the oil miracle. But really, we should celebrate the deliverance from the hand of our enemies, right? From the Greeks. That's really what it should be. So he says like this. He says, Chanuka took place right after the last of the Nevi'im, Chagai, Zechariah, and Malachi, were nifter. So what that means is we lost Nevuah. Hashem no longer communicated directly with us, and suddenly we were like children. No longer could we depend on Hashem reaching down to communicate with us. We had to stretch out our arms to communicate with Him. And in the darkness of a world without Nevuah, we would need to forge our own connection with Hashem in the furnace of our own hearts. But it's hard because sometimes we feel, Abba, Tati, where are you? Eifo ata? Are you still there? And sometimes we need help. And the joy of Chanuka is not that we got what we davened for, not that we were victorious over the Greeks, but that Hashem let us know, I'm here. He let us know that in a world where there's spiritual decay and the Timu Teicholo, where the Beis Hamikdash was Metame, right, that Hashem was still there, that the darkness had not extinguished the light, it was only hidden. And not only would the light burn for 8 days, but for thousands of years. We took the light into the long light of Golus. And we would know, and we know this by the remarkable survival of Am Yisrael, that Hashem is with us even in the darkest of times. And more Jews observe Chanuka than any other Yom Tov. And those lights are still burning, no matter how far someone is from Yiddishkeit, and no matter how far someone is from their Jewish roots, you can still find menorahs in their window, a little spark that lingers. And so I just wanted to share that. Now, this night is L'Zecher Nishmas, my father's Yartzeit. So I just want to say one thing about my father, Zecher Tzadik Levracha. My father used to tell us, when somebody asks you what you do not tell him what you do for Parnasa. You say, I'm an Eved Hashem. That's what you do. So in 2016, my father, I'm going to share some stories with you as promised. So in 2016, when my father was visiting Eretz Yisrael, he fell down a flight of stairs and he suffered a traumatic brain injury, which put him in a semi-vegetative state for 30 months, which eventually took his life. So during the first 2 months that he was in Hadassah Hospital in the ICU neurological shock trauma unit, my siblings and I were rotating, going to Eretz Yisrael to sit with him in 2-week rotations. So during my time there, you get to know other families who are dealing with relatives and who are suffering from their relatives who have traumatic brain injury. There was a young woman in the unit whose name was Yael. She was from the Netherlands. She was 26 years old at the time. She was vivacious, friendly, kind, smile for everyone. Yael also happened to be a nurse in that very hospital in Hadassah. She was brought into the ICU because she had a brain aneurysm. Yael's room was directly across the hall from my father's. Her parents flew in from the Netherlands, where she was from, to be by her side, and she was given a terrible choice. She had to have an operation because without it, she would face certain death. The operation would be done arthroscopically. It required the surgeon to go through a vein in her thigh, then through her heart, and travel to the brain. And once the surgeon reached the brain, the only way to get to the aneurysm and remove it was to go through the front left hemisphere of the brain, known as the Broca region. And this is the area that controls speech. And not only would they have to drill through it, but the nerves and the arteries that supply that area would have to be cauterized, and there's no way to reattach it. In other words, she was told that if the operation was successful, she would live, but she would never be able to speak again for the rest of her life. And the process was irreversible. So this was the choice Yael faced. Certain death without the operation, or lose the ability to speak, to laugh, to daven, to never again have a loved one hear her say the words, I love you, to never again be able to say a bracha, have someone say amen, to never again be able to say Shema. Yael and her parents took a day to come to grips with this decision. And of course they had no choice, so they proceeded with the operation. I was speaking to Yael and her parents multiple times during this difficult time. Her father was very strong. Her mother, to put it delicately, was in pieces. Yael had a strong medical background. She was a nurse in that hospital, incredibly resilient, grateful that she had a chance to live, as she understood just how close to death she was. The chesed of Am Yisrael, or Bais, because she was a nurse in the hospital after she had the operation and she came back from the ICU, before she woke up, she was surrounded by 12 to 14 doctors and nurses, all her coworkers, who all wanted to be there when she woke up and lift her spirits when she woke up and she would not have her voice for the very first time. So I was across the hall, and I would pop in every few minutes to see if she had woken up. And I was sitting by my father's bed when all of a sudden I heard this blood-curdling scream from multiple people, crowd of people screaming at the top of their lungs. Yael had woken up, and she said, Ma nishma chevra, ma'am hapartzufim atzuvim. What's up, guys? Why the sad faces? The doctors and nurses were literally crying. They were screaming, Elokim, Elokim. That's what I heard from my room. Her speaking was a medical impossibility. So they rushed her immediately to do MRIs and CAT scans because her speaking could only mean one thing, and that is that they missed the spot, that they botched the operation. The aneurysm had to still be there. But as the MRI showed, they had done their job perfectly. As Yael herself told me 2 days later, the operation was done to perfection. The aneurysm is gone. I'm out of danger. But there are indeed no nerves connected anymore, and it's simply impossible that I'm talking now. the Nes Nigla Mamish. So the next day, my uncle, the Rosh Hashiva Ner Yisrael, Reuven Feldman, Shlita, he came to visit my father, his brother. I told him the story, so he went in to talk to Yael and her parents. And when he finished with them, he came back across the hall into my father's room. He collapsed into a chair, and he was just weeping, just saying to himself, regardless of the Rebbeinu Shalom, the koyach of the Rebbeinu Shalom. And he couldn't talk. I never saw him like that. He was shaken. He didn't say anything else during that visit. 3 days later, I was visiting the Toldos Aaron Rebbe, who I have a very close relationship with, and I was discussing the situation of my father, because I was pretty tzibrochen about the whole thing, and he always gives me chizuk. And as I was leaving, it occurred to me that I should tell him this story of Yael, and as I finished the story, there were tears in his eyes, and he says to me, Reb Reuven, I've moyer dikatainus on you. And I said, Rebbe, what did I do? He said, you come to me for chizuk. He says, your father set you up in a situation where you personally witnessed a nes nigla. This isn't a maisa that you heard from someone who heard from someone. It's not a magid telling you over divrei hasoyrus. You saw Yad Hashem. You saw Hayipolei Hashem Davar. You saw Zeh Keli V'Anveu. You spoke to a girl whose every word out of her mouth is like the Shekhinah is talking, and you witnessed this. And your father brought you here to see this, and you come to me for chizuk. He says, you need to give me chizuk. How can you ever have a doubt? How can you ever question anything after you've seen this? You have a chiyuv to share the story at any opportunity that you have for the rest of your life. So I do check on Yael once a year, and 8 years later, she's Baruch Hashem doing great with no medical setbacks in this area of her life. The next story that I want to share with you happened much more recently. 5 weeks ago, I went to Eretz Yisrael for the Mir Yarchei Kala, and while I was there, I had the opportunity to spend some time with Rav Shlomo Yehuda Berry, Hagoin HaYanuka. Some background. This is an amazing story, but in order to fully grasp it, you have to halt cup to these little details that may seem mundane. So I have a first cousin. Her name is Chaya Tamar. Her mother, she should live and be well, and my mother, Alau Shalom, were sisters. So that makes Chaya Tamar my good. Okay. Now, Chaya Tamar and I are 18 days apart in age. We're very close. Chaya Tamar's husband's name is Gabi. Pay attention. This is all important. Nothing I say isn't important. Right. Now, Chaya Tamar knew I was going to see the Chanuka. She asked me to please get a bracha from him for her, as she and her husband, although they have a business, they're struggling terribly. So I have a list of people in my phone that I daven for refuah shalema and for parnasa every day. Right, so here's the list, right? I have a list. You said Shema Kolenu, right? It's Anyway, I blew it up, right? So this is it. Again, this is important. Okay. So when you go in to see the Chanuka, he has a severe problem with his eyes. He has a retinal disorder that causes him to have a terrible light sensitivity to his eyes. So his office is very, very dark. It's almost pitch black. And his gabbai asked me that I not turn on my phone as the light disturbs him. And when you go into his office, it's literally pitch black with a little candle. So prior to my entering his office, I took out my phone and I started writing down the names. Now, of course, I know Chaya Tamar's name and her mother's name because she's my cousin and her mother's my... Good, right. 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 So I know her name. Now, Gabi, although I know her husband's name is Gabi, he's only my cousin by marriage. And although I have his name in my phone and I daven for him every day, there's a lot of names I don't know his name organically. So I had to write it down on a piece of paper. So I had to go through the list on my phone and get his full name in Hebrew and write it down. So I enter into the office, I talk with the Chanuka about what I want to talk about for 15 minutes, and at the conclusion of my meeting, I asked him to please give a bracha to my cousins who are struggling, and I handed him the paper with their names, and I asked him to please give them a bracha, and I videotaped it because I wanted to send it to her so that she should see that shliach oiseh shlichusah, right? Okay, so I videotaped it. Fine, he did it. He said their names. He said Chai Tamar. He said the name, that I'd written down. Okay. Then I get into the car with the Chanuka's shamish, who was the one who drove me there and was driving me back to Yerushalayim. And from the car, I called my cousin, and I told her I did it, and I sent her the video. And then she calls me. The video's 26 seconds long. I have the video right here on a tablet. I'll show it all to you. Okay. And then she calls me right back, and she goes, "Thank you very much. Very nice that you gave him my name, but he said Rafal Avigdor, and you know that's not Gabi's name." And I'm like, "What?" Because he said Rafal Avigdor. Gabi's name is Gavriel, you know that. And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, what did I do?" So apparently, my next door neighbor in Muncie, he had come to me 6 months ago and asked me for a job. So when he asked me for a job, I said, "What's your name?" And I put him on my list. So I have Rafal Avigdor, and then I have Gabriel, right? And by accident, in my nervousness, I accidentally wrote down Rafal Avigdor instead of Gabi, right? So the Chanuka gave Rafal Avigdor a bracha. So of course I tell the shamish, because he's right in the car with me, and they call up. He called up the other shamish, and Baruch Hashem, we got Gabi the correct bracha. Then I call up my neighbor. Whose name is Avi. Okay, his name's Avi. And I said, "Listen, Avi, I don't know if you know, but I've been davening for you, but I accidentally got you a bracha from the Chanuka." So, so he's like, "What?" I said, "I accidentally got you a bracha from the Chanuka for Parnasa." So the bracha that the Chanuka said, it's on the video, he said, again, this is 6 weeks ago, 5-6 weeks ago. He says, Rafal Avigdor Chai Tamar, say Kapitel Yud Gimel Ad Ner Rishon L'Chanuka. That's what he said. Say Ad Ner Rishon L'Chanuka. So then I sent my neighbor Avi the video also. He calls me back. He goes, it's in Hebrew and he's mumbling quickly. He says, "What did he say?" I said, "This is what he says. Say Yud Gimel until Ner Rishon." He goes, "Okay, I'm going to do it. Fine." He says, "Okay. So what could help? Yud Gimel's not that long anyway." Okay. A week ago today, Wednesday, was Ad Ner Rishon L'Chanuka. Avi called me up, and he says, "The day after you got the bracha," I went back to my emails. He goes, "I got contacted by somebody." Now, I just want to tell you something about Avi. He's in his mid to late 50s, and he was chief technology officer for many, many years for a company, which means he was making a very, very healthy salary. Now, he had two things going against him. To get that kind of salary again, very, very difficult. And for someone to hire someone in their 50s, it's not done because everybody wants someone in their early 30s, right? They don't want people, right? There's ageism around. So that he was struggling for 6 months to find a job. He has 6 kids, and he was in very, very dire straits, very dire straits. So he says to me, the day after you got the bracha, I was contacted by someone, and I was contacted by many people, so I didn't pay much attention. He says, but I said Kapitel Yud Gimel every single day. He says, I went back and forth with this person. He goes, and today, meaning last Wednesday, he says, I said Kapitel Yud Gimel, and an hour later, I signed the contract, and I got the job. Wow. So, Mavel Afarai. So, anyway, if we have time afterwards, I have put the video on a tablet. I'll show you the video of the Chanuka. So, every day every day miracles unfold in our midst, quietly. I do want to tell you, the postscript to this is that on Sunday, on my block in Muncie, I got about 6 calls on Sunday from all my neighbors there. And they're all calling me. Avi told me, is this, how do I reach the Chanuka? And I have a neighbor, one of my neighbors there went to Israel. He goes, can you hook me up? Mom, and I'm telling you, I'll show you the text. You got it. This is an incredible story. I mean, it's incredible because you have both me and Avi, right? It's mamish. It's unbelievable. I mean, he told me that he and his wife are mamish they're just shaken. Both of them shaken. Okay, every day miracles unfold in our midst, and steadfastly, quietly, the biggest miracle that we have in our midst here is our Moradasra Rav Smith Shlita. The Mesiras Nefesh of Rav Smith is unparalleled. It's a commitment that transcends comprehension. It's the sacrifice that elevates not only him but all of us to have a blessing to call this community our home. Now, I know more than most of you the terrible struggle that he has personally. We all come in every day. The electric bill is paid. There's coffee. There are minyanim throughout the day. More than anywhere else in Hollywood, there's a mikveh, beautiful, spotless, clean, runs on a deficit of many thousands of dollars every month. There's a kollel that's the foundation and backbone of this community. It provides nitzotzei shel kedusha, these sparks of kedusha and hashpoi shel kedusha that most of us take for granted. When Rav Smith founded this community 8 years ago, there was nothing but faith. Faith in the Rebbeinu Shalom, faith in a vision that this kehillah could become a beacon of Torah, avodah, and chesed. And through his sweat and tears and his unyielding emunah, he has brought us to where we are today. A flourishing community so vibrant and so alive that it even boasts the ultimate hallmark of success, a breakaway minyan. Congratulations, mazel tov, you've arrived. Gewaldig. All of this on the blood, sweat, and tears of Rav Smith, who himself goes without. He's constantly fundraising. For who? For you, not for himself, because he's doing without. You have no idea how much he suffers. Everything he does for you. Nothing here happens by magic. Every little thing takes time and money, and most of you have businesses. All of you have families. You all know how hard it is to make money. It's like wrestling crops from iron ground. The ani is humble in spirit and sees himself as having nothing. He thereby merits the shefa, the illumination of the Hashras Shechina and Rachamim. David HaMelech longed for and yearned for this Hashras Shechina. He asked the Rebbeinu Shalom to place him in a state of a poor person. For all the spiritual and material perfections he attained, that meant nothing to him if he lacked anias. And when he was able to nullify his connection to Gashmias, he said, Vani ani ve'evyon. Our Rebbe is this Kadosh v'Tahar ani ve'evyon. Every minute of every day, he struggles to keep the lights on, the air conditioning on in these rooms to keep us cool, the heat on the mikveh, all to keep us comfortable. The bathrooms are still clean. I must admit, I was pleasantly shocked when I came back 2 months ago and saw the bathrooms were still in amazing condition. Well, guess what? That costs money. There's no alumni here to draw on. There's no real base. There's not a group of 100 families paying a normal shul membership. There's no sisterhood. There's nothing here. There's one tzaddik of a man holding this place up every day. And you need to understand the miracle that we have every day. 8 days of miracle on Chanuka. This place is a miracle 365 days a year. Every day it survives Nisim Giluyim. Hakaras HaTov. Hakaras HaTov is more than words. It's behavior. It's sacrificing for the one who has sacrificed and given his life for you. We all have a kehillah, makam Torah, a place to call home. The friends that you have, the relationships that you've developed, the life that your children have, it's all on Rebbe's back. His sacrifice, his blood, his sweat, his countless sleepless nights and river of tears. And yet through it all, he smiles at everyone. I was just watching him give this speech. It's like he turns on a switch, he lights up, he's happy. I'd be in pieces, right? He has time for everyone. He's Isaac 24 hours a day in this place. He worries constantly how to build this place, how to make it bigger, better. He told me last week he's going to have 10 kilo guys. I'm having a nervous breakdown, right? Right? Every challenge he faces, every setback is met with the same resilience, bolstered by his unwavering emunah and bitachon in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. For him, there's no rest, no reprieve. He shoulders the burden so that we may thrive here, blissfully unaware of the pain, struggles, and sacrifices going on. I think probably 90% of you have children. You all have tsaras, daigas, medical issues, crises of your own, parnasa issues, house repairs, logistics, shalom bayis issues. The list is endless. Whatever goes on in your life, you shield your children from it. You have little ones, babies, toddlers, children. You do your best to shield all the tsaras and daigas from your children so they sleep well and don't have to think or worry about anything. Go to sleep, tatala. Don't worry. And they're happy and healthy and worry-free, and that's what we all want from our children. And that's exactly what our Rebbe wants from us. We're blissfully unaware of what it takes to keep this place going, as he stays up all night and worries 24/7 to ensure that all of us can come in here, pal around with our friends, daven, learn, have coffee, farbrang, talk business, pontificate. We love to pontificate, right? Whatever we want. It's all here worry-free. We're like little children. It's all good, magically on a silver platter, the ruchnius and the gashmius. As the Rebbe said, Chanuka is a time lahoidos or lahalel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. If you can't thank the person in front of you, the person who's so obviously responsible for the success of the chiyus of your neshama, how can you thank the Rebbeinu Shalom? This is a time for celebration, but also reflection. Let's honor Rav Smith, not only with words, but with our actions. Let's ensure that his sacrifices are met with our support. His vision is met with our dedication, and this Kehillah continues to thrive as a bastion of Or Torah, Chesed, and inspiration. To that end, I have an announcement to make. Thanks to the leadership of Adam Greenberg, who works tirelessly every day, nonstop, behind the scenes for all of us, both giving of his time and money, without any fanfare, with total tznius. Adam is building a new Beis Medrash next door, which will serve two things. First of all, it will be a beautiful Beis Medrash with a kitchen and a place that will be dedicated to only learning and shiurim. And the natural collateral consequences of that will be that this room, where we are now, will be dedicated for only minyanim, so that hopefully more minyanim can be added to the schedule. Both the idea for this and the incredibly beautiful design are the brainchild of Adam, as was the beautiful redesign of this room. So shkoyach to Adam. Now, the budget for the new Beis Medrash is $15,000. That's just for the construction of the Beis Medrash. That's not for the bookcases, not for the kitchen, not for the bathroom, new sfarim, not for furniture, table, or chairs. And I am very happy and extraordinarily proud to announce that the Morning Yerushalmi Chabura has collectively raised the entire $15,000 with 100% participation of the 6 members contributing $2,500 each. And no one said, I can't, although some of them really can't. No one said, I have so many commitments already. Everyone responded with hineni, okay, I'm giving over and above anything else I've given to Bais Mordechai. A new Beis Medrash for Bais Mordechai, that averages $50 a week for 1 year, less than the cost of eating out at a restaurant, no problem, no one's gonna feel it. All of them reached in their pocket, gave B'lev Shalem with a smile. Thank you to Rav Yehuda Genun, who started this year a few years ago. He's with us all the time. Thank you to our Maggid Shir. This is going to kill you. Thank you to our Maggid Shir, Moshe Suskin, who's not here, right? But I'm glad I'm recording this so I could send this to him. Moshe, who was, of course, the first person I approached for the money, and his immediate response was, of course. Moshe leads us every day in not just one, but two incredible shiurim. First, there's the pre-shiur, where he dazzles us with his vast knowledge of a seemingly endless array of topics. Finance, he's a master. Politics, he's got the insights. Real estate, he knows the market inside and out, right? And better than any broker. And of course, he knows all the brokers. Law, he could argue in the Supreme Court. Current events, he's more up to date than the news. He's ahead of the headlines. The latest comings and goings of who's who in the frum world, he could host a documentary, right? The intricate politics of every shul and school in South Florida, he knows it all. Halacha, he's a walking Shulchan Aruch. Medicine, he knows better than most doctors. There's literally nothing Moshe doesn't know. And he shares it with an unmatched charm and depth. Then after the pre-shiur, after catching us up on everything imaginable and unimaginable, he moves on to the main event. The most electrifying shiur in Yerushalmi you could imagine, with zero preparation. Moshe delivers sheer brilliance on the spot, pure godless, extraordinary clarity, and a geschmack that ignites a bren for Torah like I've never seen. His passion and depth leaves everyone in awe. I tell you, I've completely rearranged my schedule to make sure I don't miss the 9:30 a.m. shiur. It's transformative. It's inspiring and unmissable. Now, thank you to the rest of the Chabura, Buni Sokol, who isn't here, Yehuda Sahar, who isn't here, Jonas Michalov, who isn't here, Yoni Kushner, he's here! Right? All of them gave $2,500, and Ani HaKotan, I'm here, right? Each of us contributing $2,500 to the new Bais Medrash, and Rabbi Smith, don't worry, as I said, each person has promised that this is over and above any other pledge that they have given to Bais Mordechai.